scores majestically.
Oh my word! Fabulous!
Oh, what a strike that is. Simply spectacular.
Oh, it's an absolute beauty, isn't it?
The best goal of the night.
It all starts here.
Hello and welcome to National League 72. This week's headlines include Ollie Pearce reaching 30 goals with a hat-trick in a record-breaking win for York City, Gateshead scoring the worst or best own goal ever, and one of the most controversial decisions of the season against Mark White's Dorking Wanderers. We start at the LNER Community Stadium where York City scored the most goals they ever have in a stunning 7-2 victory over his mob, Aldershot. It's fair to say York City are absolutely flying at the minute.
Yeah, listen, they've hit a purple patch now. And what they've done is come out of a little blip and they've come out with flying colours, winning week in, week out. And that's what you have to do if you hope to go and win the championship.
Most goals in a season in over 41 years. Highest average attendances at home. These York fans are really getting their money's worth, aren't they?
Yeah, and the thing is, listen, when you put it in perspective, last season they were fighting relegation. This season, you know, like you say, record goals scored. The fans are turning out for York, and they're a massive club, but you need something to be able to pin your hat on. You know, you need a team to produce on the pitch, and now the team's doing that, and the fans are coming out in the numbers.
With the likes of Ollie Pearce up front, a hat-trick at the weekend. We spoke about how he was in the list of top strikers in England's top 5 divisions. He's now rubbing shoulders with the likes of Lewandowski and Gyökeres in the European leagues. His season has just been incredible considering where he's come from.
Yeah, well, he's a player that I've loved for a few years. You know, his time at Worthing scored bucket loads of goals, and there was always that question mark on whether or not he'd be able to make the step up and do it in the National League. You know, I never doubted that he'd be able to do it. It was just a case of which club's going to take the risk on him, which club is going to, you know, put their money where their mouth is and take a chance on him. And he's been outstanding this season. 30 goals as a striker, you know, that's exactly what you want.
Is he a classic example of someone that slipped through the net?
Yeah, I think his age has probably gone against him because he's probably developed a little bit later. You know, he's 29 now. I think he turns 30 in August. So I think that's probably where teams have been a little bit hesitant to go out and spend the money on him, purely because what will the resale value be on him? You know, he's far from coming to the end of his career, make no mistake about it, but I think his age has probably just gone against him. But the fact that he's done it at the level below, he's come into the National League and he's hit the ground running, I've got no doubt that he'll be able to go into the Football League. Look at what Michael Cheek's done. You know, Michael Cheek has, very similar to him, spent all of his career in non-league football and now steps up into League Two and sits at the top of the goal scoring charts in League Two. So, you know, I've no doubt that Ollie Pearce can go and do exactly the same if he gets the opportunity.
We've picked out some of your favourite goals that Ollie's scored. So can you just try and get us into the mindset of what it's like to be an elite finisher?
As soon as he picks up the ball, you know exactly what he's going to do. The most important thing is his first touch here. Gets it out of his feet and it allows him to get the strike on goal. For a striker, that is so important. I was always taught, make sure your first touch is right, and then that sets everything else up. This is just pure football intelligence. You know, he knows that the wall's probably going to jump and he just opts to go underneath it. You know, not normally their free kick taker, but takes the responsibility. This is off the cuff. He knows where the goal is. He knows the goal doesn't move, and he just has to make sure that he gets enough purchase on it to just guide it into that far corner. Brilliant finish. It was so late in the game, and it was a game that they needed to win against Maidenhead. Just comes up with the clutch goal. I think they went on and scored again after this, but that moment was so important. And here it's just purely about his movement. First touch again, and then the finish is magnificent. First touch into the space, rifles it into that top corner. Absolutely magnificent.
This is my favourite.
Well, this is just pure invention. You know, he has to improvise. The ball's probably a little bit behind him, but because he's such a good finisher, he manages to improvise on the spin, little flick between his legs, and another goal to add to his tally.
Yeah, some great goals from Ollie Pearce. I'm sure there'll be more to come before the end of the season. And you can see Ollie Pearce in action this Friday live on DAZN as York City look to keep up the pressure at the top of the table as they travel to a rejuvenated Gateshead at 12:30 live on DAZN. And our featured fixture during this fully loaded Easter weekend sees the league leaders Barnet host the Spitfires. Coverage starts from 5 p.m. And if you wanted even more National League action, which of course you do, join Aaron and I along with a host of guests on Multi-Match Live on Easter Monday from 2:45, where we'll be bringing you all the goals and action live on DAZN. There were, of course, some other games that are taking place at the weekend in the National League. Erin, is there a world or universe where Barnet don't win the league?
There is, and it's, very much now a case of Dean Brennan refocusing his team. Having dropped 5 points in the last 2 games, I don't think anyone would have envisaged that. But what I will say is that it's now about mindset. It's now about their focus on, listen, Dean Brennan told us their target is 100 points. Now, the run that they'd been on had put them in credit and they'd been, in advance of that. That's still very much on. They can still get 104 points. And 100 points gets them the championship. So I think it's just now a case of not getting too carried away with what's gone before and the points that they've dropped and just focusing on the next one. I still have no doubt that Barnet have got more than enough to be able to, get back on track and go on and lift the title.
Following the 1-1 draw against Wealdstone, I noticed online that they'd recalled quite a few loanees, one of them Jermaine Francis, who has been absolutely brilliant at Braintree. Do you think that is we need reinforcements to help us get over the line, or is it a rocket up the backside to those that haven't been doing it the last couple of weeks? You've been in a changing room. What do you think the mindset of Dean Brennan is there?
I think it's a mixture. I think, first of all, it's to let the players that probably haven't been performing the last couple of weeks, let them know, you know what, we've got other players who have been out on loan and have earned the right to come back and be fighting for a place. I think it's reward for those players who have gone out and applied themselves, like Jermaine Francis, perfect example, scoring goals, playing well at Braintree. Now you have the opportunity to come back and maybe be in a, championship winning team.
A great point for Wealdstone in their fight for survival in the National League, but also Boston again, ole, beating Altrincham 1-0. They are just unbelievable.
The thing is, I don't think anyone's surprised anymore, by what Boston are doing. 7 wins out of their last 9 games is championship full. They're the most informed team in the last 10 games in the division. So I think what they're doing is now no longer just a surprise to people. I think now this is just what we're coming to expect. The grudge match between them and Wealdstone now is going to be huge because obviously Wealdstone came out winners just a couple of weeks ago. Now they have the opportunity to go and flip that and get the 3 points. But with both of those teams being sat on 49 points, I think whoever comes out on top of that is safe, and it just just still leaves a question mark over the loser. A draw would be a great point for both teams.
The fans are absolutely loving it as well at Boston. On social media, Josh BUFC says even Hollywood scriptwriters might have struggled to come up with this. And there's always a little bit of football rivalry online. Matthew Derwin, a Boston United fan, says mind the gap, and he's added Dagenham and Redbridge as well, which is very brutal. But football fans, you can't, they'll always try and get a little dig in where they can. The playoffs are open, it's fair to say. Why do you think we're seeing so many teams like the Altrincham, Forest Green, Halifax, Oldham, Rochdale and previously Gateshead struggle to really cement their place in the playoffs? And you can even go down to Southend United, who had a great opportunity at home at the weekend against Solihull to take all 3 points, and then the away team go and do it. I'm not going to say it's like no one wants to go into the playoffs, but is this just because the pressure is getting too much and there's so much on the line to get those last few spots?
I don't think you can say any different. It's clearly the pressure. Listen, I've been in situations like that before where you're fighting to try and get into the playoffs, or you're fighting to try and get into automatic promotion spots. And the pressure's huge. And those who can deal with it the best are the ones that go on and are successful. York are doing exactly that. Forest Green definitely aren't. You know, Forest Green have slipped into that mode of they're not playing particularly well, they're not winning games. All that playoff pack, I've got to say, out of all of them, I think Tamworth are the ones that could creep in there. There's a 4-point gap that they need to make up. But at the moment, Halifax are dropping like a stone. Oldham, I think, have lost 4 in a row. And Rochdale, inconsistent, really good win at the weekend, but inconsistent. I think their game in hand could give them if they're able to win that game in hand, I think that's against Solihull, which isn't going to be an easy game. But if they're able to win that game in hand, they could be the ones that take that 4th spot. And now it's just about jostling for positions. Whoever finishes in that 4th spot then straight away gets the home tie in the eliminator. So there's so much to play for all of those teams. But at the moment, no one really seems like they've got the minerals to be able to go and grab it by the scruff of the neck. Because at any point, if any of those teams had put a decent run together, they'd be safe and away in the playoffs.
One of the best or worst, depending on what side you sit on, own goals ever. You were there, you saw it live. Have you ever seen a goal like that?
It's definitely one of the best that I've seen live. Listen, Gateshead were playing magnificently. They were very much back to the Gateshead that we're used to seeing. You know, the free-flowing football. Obviously had the 2-goal cushion. And it was just a lapse in concentration. The ball bobbles up to Regan Booty as he goes to play it back to his goalkeeper. George Shelby had obviously wandered off of his line in anticipation for the pass, and it just sailed over his head. He did his best to try and keep it out, but only manages to flick it back into his own goal, and that gave Forest Green the impetus to be able to go on and get another goal and almost get something out of the game. I must say, the right team won on the day. You know, Gateshead were brilliant and fully deserved the 3 points.
Nick Harrison on social makes a good point. Why did the goalkeeper not use his hands and then just take an indirect free kick? I suppose when you're in the moment, you can get caught up in it all. We might have thought, I could probably get this and nudge it over the bar or to the side of the goal.
Yeah, and listen, who knows what went through his head there, but he could have done that. He could have just used his arms and took the free kick. I always look and think, do you know what? Do anything that you need to do to keep the ball out of the net. So I think that probably in hindsight would have been the right thing to do, because it's a goal either way. But he opts to try and head it, gets it wrong, and it's split seconds. You have a split second to make that decision. He gets that one wrong and it costs him a goal.
Speaking of great goals, and there were plenty scored in the right end at the weekend, it's now time for you to pick your top 3 goals. So what have you gone for?
Well, in 3rd place, I've gone for Tamworth's Tom McGlinchey, who heads it into the box, but when it comes out to him, a fantastic technique to just control it and drive it into that bottom corner. Brilliant finish for Tamworth, and a team that I'm really enjoying watching so far this season. In 2nd place has to go to Gateshead's Liam Humbles. Only has one thing in his mind, drives at the heart of the Forest Green defence and smashes it into the bottom corner. Brilliant performance from Gateshead, and it was a standout performance from Liam Humbles. And in 1st place, Elliot Fort from Solihull. Picks the ball up, only has one thing on, but manages to be able to whip this ball into the far top corner and gets all 3 points for Solihull.
3 great goals there, Aaron. Right, coming up later in the show, we look ahead to the Good Friday games and that Dorking Wanderers mix-up. Don't go anywhere.
Greatness comes to DAZN this summer. The world's best players will be summoned together to decide the greatest club on earth.
Vinicius, great chance to score.
Goats will battle Wonder Kids. Fire will meet ice. From Boca to Bayern, PSG to Palmeiras, 32 clubs from across the globe will compete to be crowned
Rodrigo, what a strike that was.
world champion. And this summer, Haaland won't be watching from home, but you can on DAZN. in every country in the world. FIFA Club World Cup. Watch on DAZN from the 14th of June.
DAZN is the global home of women's football. Let's go! Bringing you the best live games.
On my team.
With the biggest stars battling it out in the biggest competitions.
Cue the chaos. First blood in the title decider. Would you believe it?
Goodness me.
Witness every season-defining moment.
The stuff of champions.
Live and on demand. Only on DAZN.
Live on DAZN Worldwide, April 26th. Eubank Jr. versus Ben. Over 30 years of rivalry and hatred.
I do hate him.
2 warriors, 2 wars, but the feud was left unfinished. Then, a bloodline born.
Legacy, respect.
The next generation.
My dad's my hero.
A new destroyer. Rivalry in their veins. Hatred in their blood.
This is going to be a bloodbath.
Family.
This is personal. I can't lose to this, man.
History.
Eubank, Nigel Benn. This is a war.
Legacy.
This is the final chapter.
Eubank Jr. versus Ben. Live on DAZN Worldwide. April 26th. Buy now at DAZN.com/boxing.
As the battle for the title, playoffs and relegations reach their conclusion, DAZN will bring you a very special Easter Monday multi-match live. April 21st, myself and Erin will see you there. And if you haven't watched it already, where have you been? This is what you've been missing out on. Good evening and welcome to Multi-Match Live.
Here on DAZN, we bring you all the goals, action and drama from tonight's National League games.
You can't beat the National League on DAZN. Will Brigg is frozen.
You know I can't play bad for you, Mac.
Who said be a manager? It's not good.
Oh, it's a wonderful goal.
It's live football. There's nothing better than watching.
We're rolling, baby. I'm running out of superlatives to describe how incredible this Barnet team is.
Dorking Wanderers gaffer Mark White.
There's 6 teams still playing for automatic promotions.
The Braintree game, you get some serious rocking.
That is absolutely incredible.
Delivers again. Pearce takes the shot. He's in! Ollie has done it!
Join us for Multi-Match Live on Monday the 21st of April on the home of the National League, DAZN.
Also catch all the goals and action from this weekend's rounds of the National League with our highlight show exclusively live on DAZN on Tuesday the 22nd and now available on our YouTube channel. Head to youtube.com/@DAZN Sport. What an absolute blockbuster of Easter weekend. National League football coming your way exclusively live on DAZN. Friday's games can have huge ramifications all over the table, especially at the top. Gateshead versus York. And with them being the earlier kickoff, they can go just 3 points behind Barnet. How much will that affect the Barnet players? Because they'll definitely have an eye on that.
Yeah, well, it's huge for York, you know, to be in this position. And as you say, to be able to close the gap to 3 points before Barnet kick a ball. All they can do is try and put the pressure onto Barnet and make it as uncomfortable for them as possible. What I'm glad to say is both of these teams, Gateshead and York, are both back to the free-flowing best. They're 2 of the best footballing teams that we've seen in this division. And I think it's huge for Gateshead because Gateshead will want to try and get above Oldham into that 4th spot and cement that place. For York, it's huge because they want to try and close the gap. And I've got to say, I've got a keen eye on Ollie Pearce in this game. He's scored against 13 of the National League teams so far this season. Gateshead is one of the teams that he hasn't scored against yet. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he's able to add to his growing list.
Very greedy. He's got all the records and there's just a couple more that he wants. When we were at York City versus Forest Green Rovers, we had the manager interviews afterwards, both very different. When we spoke to Adam Hinchelwood, he said, you know, the title's almost over. This was when Barnet had that huge gap. Look, the point's good, but it's not going to, you know, get us closer to where we want to be, and sort of played it all down. We said the same question to Steve Cottrell and got a very different response. And he was like, no, we keep fighting. We'll go to the end. Do you think that pressure that's come off the York City players and how they've just gone under the radar now has made them perform better? And we've sort of seen a decline in the way Forest Green have. I'm not saying it's all down to that interview, but two very different outlooks from the managers. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it really just depends on how the results go. You know, if Adam Hinchell had come out and said, no, we keep fighting, and then there'd been this resurgence, then we'd be saying, oh, brilliant, you know, he made sure that his team didn't give up. Because he played it down, now we look at, you know, you'll always look at it dependent on the results. What I will say is that he had to make sure that his team realigned their focus in case they were in the playoffs, which at this moment in time, that's very much still where they are. You know, they've not done anything yet. They need to win their final 4 games. That goes without saying, if they're going to have any chance of winning the title. But what I think they are is in a better frame of mind, so that the disappointment of not winning the league, where they were challenging for it for so long, the disappointment of not winning it won't be as bad as, you know, it potentially would have been had they just concentrated solely on winning the title.
Barnet play Eastleigh after York City. What will Dean Brennan be saying to his team before that game and in the build-up to that game? I've seen the pictures on training, they're all smiling, joking, but those players will know what the York City score is. How can they switch the mindset from worrying about what they're doing and just concentrating on what they're doing? And knowing Dean Brennan, he's the kind of character that's not going to let them slip up. Yeah,
they need to just shut out all the outside noise. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. They're in the driving seat, and it is now a 4-game league. You know, regardless of what's been before, you're the team that's in the driving seat. It's just about regaining their composure now. If I'm Barnet, I'm looking at it and not looking at the 5 points that we've dropped over the last couple of games. I'm looking and saying, okay, we lost 1 game. We've played our local rivals in Wealdstone, a game that they'll probably feel that they should have won if Callum Stead's goal wasn't ruled offside. They take a 2-0 lead and they probably go on and win that. They know that they can beat every team in this division when they're on song. So it's just about making sure that they stay focused on what their objectives are. And I'm sure they'll be able to do that. And I have no doubt that they'll go and get the win, and that will just quieten down all the noise.
I'll allow Mystic Mac to make one more prediction. In your humble opinion, I know you play for Barnet, who do you think is going to win the National League title?
Well, I'm going to say Barnet. I'm going to say Barnet. You know, listen, and not because it's one of my former clubs, but purely because I know what the lads are like. I know the type of character that Dean Brennan brings into the club. You know, I think that they've been the strongest squad throughout, whether you're the goalkeeper all the way through to the strikers. They have the strongest spine in the division, and they've got the big game players. You know, Callum Stead is someone who I absolutely love watching him play, and he has been, you know, one of the most standout players in the division this season. So I have to say, I still think Barnet will go on and win it. I think they'll win on Friday, and I think that they'll go and lift it probably on the following match week.
So Mystic Max says it's going to be a brilliant summer for Barnet fans, but it's also going to be a great summer for football fans because a new club tournament is coming your way, live on DAZN.
Greatness comes to DAZN this summer. The world's best players will be summoned together to decide the greatest club on earth.
Vinicius, great chance to score.
Goats will battle Wonder Kids. Fire will meet ice. From Boca to Bayern, PSG to Palmeiras, 32 clubs from across the globe will compete to be crowned
Rodrigo, what a strike that was!
world champion. And this summer, Haaland won't be watching from home, but you can, on DAZN. In every country in the world. FIFA Club World Cup. Watch on DAZN from the 14th of June.
We end the show with the incident that took place at Dorking Wanderers when they travelled to Bath City. They had a man sent off in the last knock-ins of the games, which proved to be very pivotal in that game, Aaron.
Yeah, and I totally understand Mark White and Dorking's frustrations, because for me, it's a clear mistake from the referee. And listen, I try my best to try and be as balanced as I can and give referees as much credit as I can. But I can't for the life of me understand why they've managed to get this so wrong. You know, the linesman gives a throw-in right in the corner for Dorking. The referee then tells Taylor to move 25 yards further back. Now, Taylor only takes the throw-ins high up the pitch. Because of that, he then calls Briggs over. The manager tells him to call Briggs over to take it because it's halfway down the pitch now. And because of that, the referee then goes and gives Taylor a second yellow card and sends him off. Now, first of all, it's a mistake from the referee in terms of the positioning. You can clearly see that Mark White is telling the fourth official exactly what's happened. The referee comes over. That's your opportunity to get the decision right. Between the fourth official, between the linesman, between the referee, get the decision right. Because it's a huge moment in the game and it has huge consequences because Dorking then go on with 10 men, concede a goal and drop 2 points. Now that's the difference between Dorking being third in the division, 2 points off of the top, and being fifth. Huge ramifications for Dorking. And for me, I don't understand why you don't just take the time. You've already slowed the game down now anyway. The game's come to a halt. Get the decision right, because that could be the difference between Dorking getting promoted into the National League and not. They're the moments that I look at and I think that's unacceptable. And an apology after the situation's already happened isn't good enough.
Do you feel, as an ex-player as well, you've probably experienced things like that? Maybe not exactly like that. Is that where a lot of the frustration comes from you as well? Because as a football fan, I'm sure the fans will... It's happened, they sort of move on, they forget about it. But like you say, for the players, for the staff, everyone associated with the football club, it affects them even more. And it's probably, they are dying for every single point. And every point in that division, especially in the National League South, when so many teams can win it, is so valuable.
Well, it's so tight, you know, and listen, this is the crunch time of the season. The lads are going out and working so hard to try and get that 3 points because they know exactly what that means. Now, to drop points because of somebody else's negligence is unacceptable. You should not be dropping points because of poor decisions from referees. As I said before, the game had stopped. The referee came over to the touchline. Now it's about calm, understanding the situation, what has happened, and how do we make it right. I'm sure absolutely no one would have any complaints if the referee said, you know what, my mistake, I hold my hands up. It's not a red card for you, and the throw-in should be taken from the right place, because that's the right thing to do. They don't do that. And for me, it's probably a little bit harsh, but that's a little bit of arrogance for me. A little bit of arrogance in, no, I've made my decision and that's it. You're not prepared to actually listen and get the decision right. And as I say, I'm an advocate for referees. I know sometimes they get unfair criticism. And if you listen to my commentary, I'm always trying to boost the referees when they're doing a good job. But when they make a mistake such as that could have the ramifications that could have, that's totally unacceptable for me.
Yeah, everyone in that football stadium, I'm sure, was hoping for a positive outcome. And what it has been quite positive is Mark White, who's obviously very vocal on social media. He did put out a statement and had spoken to the head of referees, and they were having some positive conversations. Like you said, Aaron, they did get an apology, which is not great for them now, but moving forward, hopefully, everyone can learn from this example and we won't get a mistake like that again.
Yeah, listen, I think it is a moment for everyone to learn. And I think that in terms of the referees, and, you know, Howard Webb's obviously at the top of it, that is a situation that doesn't happen very often. It's almost like a freak accident. And maybe the referee didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe he didn't realise that he could take back a decision. I don't know whether or not they can. But if they can't, that's something that needs to be implemented so that doesn't happen again. Because, like I say, if Dorking go on and finish lower down and it ends up costing them the opportunity to win the championship, that's a huge moment in their season.
There never really is a dull moment in the National League. You can go and have a lie down now, mate. I know you're quite stressed from all the refereeing talk. That's it from us here at National League 72, but we'll see you next week. Good evening and welcome to Multi-Match Live.
Here on DAZN, we bring you all the goals, action and drama from tonight's National League games.
You can't beat the National League on DAZN. Will Grigg is frozen.
You know I can't play bad for you, Maka.
Who said be a manager? It's not good.
Oh, it's a wonderful goal.
It's live football, there's nothing better than watching.
We're rolling, baby.
I'm running out of superlatives to describe how incredible this Barnet team is.
Dorking Wanderers gaffer Mark White.
There's 6 teams still playing for automatic promotions.
The Braintree game, you gave me some serious rocking.
That is absolutely incredible.
Nick Horton delivers again. Pearce takes the shot. And he's there! Ollie has done it!
Join us for Multi-Match Live on Monday the 21st of April on the home of the National League, DAZN.